Hey y'all, welcome to my channel, Poppin' Opinions, where we don't apologize for having the unpopular opinion. We simply state the facts and we leave it there. So let's get right into today's subject. Transgenders in sports. Mainly the men that are transgendering into women that want to participate in female sports. Any way you put it, you're still a man. So let's just start with the facts about the biological differences when it comes to a woman's body versus a man's body. Now, I don't remember what I got in biology back in grade school or in college, but the fact of the matter is we're made up totally different. Now let's take a look at some of the obvious differences between a male and a female. The male's skull is larger than a female's. The male's shoulders are wider than a female's. Their arms are longer than a female's, which gives them a wider reach, a wider span. Also, their legs. Their legs are much longer than a female, once again, giving them a wider reach, a wider range. So just by the pure makeup of a male's body versus a female body, they automatically have an unfair advantage when it comes to the physical build of a man versus the physical build of a woman. So let's just look at a few facts. So I went to the internet to gather some facts and get some information because everyone knows if you're looking for anything, and I do mean anything, it's gonna be on the internet. And if it ain't there, then baby, it don't exist. So here is what I found. So like everyone else, I went to Google and asked a few inquisitive questions, like is there a difference between male and female muscles? And here are a few articles or excerpts that I came across. Now this particular article here, it talks about the difference in the muscle. Women having about 30 to 35% muscle by weight, and men are about 40 to 50% muscle. So definitely a difference there. Now the article does say that these numbers vary based on age, health, fitness, body shape, and genetics. And that an average healthy person can build more muscle by exercising and possibly change the composition of their muscles. But it does go on to say, and this is a huge but, it says that women cannot match the bulk or strength of men's skeletal muscles unless they do so artificially. So that is a very important factor there, women, that we can only compare to a man's muscular skeletal build if we do so artificially. Now here's a second article also talking about men having more muscle mass than women. And it further explains that we have less upper and lower body strength in comparison to our male counterparts. Now maybe that's the reason why I can't do pull-ups or climb a rope. I don't know. But all in all, it talks about the natural body strength of a man in comparison to a woman, and how men just naturally are stronger and faster than women because of their muscle makeup. Now, this last article here, while it pretty much says the same thing as the other two articles, that a man's muscle mass plays an important factor in why he excels beyond a woman in physical activities like sports. Now, this article here, though, it touches on a different aspect. It talks about the fact that women, our lungs and our hearts are smaller than that of a male. Therefore, we are pumping less oxygen compared to a man, which plays an important factor in speed and endurance. Now, there is another argument out there about hormone treatments. And it's my opinion, this is my opinion, but I feel like the transgender community, and when I say transgender community, I'm speaking more so about the male to female transgenders. They would have us believe that the hormone treatments are suppressing their natural masculine tendencies enough that it changes their performance against females. Now, I don't want to preach, but somebody hand me a Bible, because here we go. The fact of the matter is, the hormone treatments may change your metabolic makeup to some degree, but it doesn't change your biological makeup. Your arms are still longer, your legs are still longer, your muscle mass is still stronger than a female. Your lungs are still bigger. Your heart is still bigger. So at the end of the day, you're still a man. You still have a man's makeup. You still have that unfair advantage over a woman just because of how you were born. Regardless of what you identify with, regardless of how many pills you take or how many shots you take, what you put in you and take off of you, the basic biological makeup of a man gives him the unfair advantage over a woman in sports. Period. Now, I'm just saying, sometimes I be saying too much, but I'm just saying. Now, I did do some further research on the hormone treatment, male to female, and I did come across some articles that did show that during the hormone treatment process, it did change some things in the body, the fat distribution, also the muscle mass, the strength. So it did show that in general, those things actually lessen for the male to female during the hormone treatment. Now, it's my opinion that the articles were more so talking about the general transgender population, the population of male to females that just want to be feminine, who want to have the curves, the soft skin, the soft bodies, not more so the athletic or competitive transgender male to females that want to compete. I would think that group of transgender individuals, they would want to keep that hard, lean body. So reading those articles, it didn't sway me on my perception as far as the biological differences, because I'm thinking myself, if I were an athlete and I knew that a drug I was taking would affect my competitive edge, I wouldn't take that drug. But that's just me speaking there. Now, I'm just saying, sometimes I be saying too much, but I'm just saying. Now, to sum up the biological differences between a man and a woman, the man has the unfair advantage. Even if you're calling yourself a woman, you're identifying as a woman, but you were still born as a man, your insides tell the entire story. Your muscle mass of a man is different than the muscle mass of a woman. Yours is greater. The lung capacity of a male is different than the lung capacity of a woman. Your lungs are bigger. It's just biology. It's just simple biology. Facts. Now, I also did a little further research into the actual sports where the transgendering men that were transgendered into women. Let me just pause right here for a second. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be said. Are they transgender men that are transgendered into women? Are they transgender women? However it is. These days, everyone's so sensitive. You can't say this, you can't say that. You got to say it this way, you got to say it that way. Fact of the matter is, there are men that are transforming, transgendering, whatevering into women. That's what I'm talking about. And we're back on topic. So anyway, I did a little research to actually show some of the sports where the transgender men that were transgendered into women actually participated in the sports, and they either won, annihilated the competition, or they actually placed first, second, third, something like that. So pretty much showing the unfair advantage that they have when they compete against women who we all have the exact same makeup, whereas a man coming in, even though he's identifying as a woman, does not have the same makeup as far as insides that we have. Now, before we go any further, I do want to share something I found on Wikipedia supporting the argument of the unfair advantage that transgender women or male to female transgenders have in female sports. Now, I just dropped a little excerpt from the article, but it's very, very informative, and it covers the history of transgenders in sports, and it dates back all the way to 1975 to current. So it's a very good find. It's a very good read. I do recommend anyone interested in this subject to take a look at what Wikipedia has to say. So we start with Laurel Hubbard. She's a transgender male to female that participates in women's weightlifting sports and events. Now, she became the first transgender woman to win an international weightlifting title for New Zealand. She also won 2 gold medals in 2019 at the Pacific Games in Samoa. And in 2020, she won the gold medal at the Roma World Cup. But of course, there was controversy surrounding each time she participated in a sport, and of course, each time she won a sport. There was definitely backlash regarding the fact that she does have an unfair advantage over her opponents. And looking here at the picture of Laurel Hubbard, you can clearly see the biological differences that can't be ignored. She clearly looks like a strong man. OMG, don't let me get started here on Hannah Muncie, I believe it's pronounced. Now, she's suing the AFL because they won't let her play in the league that she wants to play in, which is the Elite AFL competition. Now, I looked at several pictures of this woman, and I use the term woman loosely here because I see a man all day. I mean, you can tell me what you see, but I see a man. Now, you got to ask the question, is she taking the hormone treatments or is she popping Skittles? If it walks like a horse, talks like a horse, and it's built like a horse, it's a horse. Now, I'm not calling Hannah Muncie a horse at all. That's not what I'm saying. I am merely stating a clear fact. She looks and has the build of a man. So my question would definitely be, is she taking hormone treatment, or is she simply saying, I identify as a female, so let me play with other females? Now, I did do a little more research into the requirements that the AFL have when it comes to transgender male to females that want to participate in female sports. Now, the new policy has 3 requirements. Now, the testosterone levels have to have been at or below a certain number for at least 2 years prior to them trying to compete. So that's a very important requirement there. And then the article goes on to talk about the transgender woman would have to also provide information regarding height, weight, bench press and things like that, pretty much showing her strength and endurance levels, which is also very important. And it kind of goes back to all the things that I've been saying as far as the unfair advantage just because of the biological makeup of a man versus a woman. So after reading this article and reading a few more articles about Hannah, my question is, when Hannah, when you provide the data that the AFL requires you to provide, like your testosterone levels and the other two or three things that they require, when you provide that data, are the numbers coming back higher than they should be? Is it showing that your numbers are closer to that of a male versus a female? And this also alludes to another question that I've asked as a transgender athlete, knowing that you have the unfair advantage because of your biological makeup, man to woman. Do at some point you stop taking your hormones? Because you know that the hormones decrease your edge. So at some point while you're training or while you're competing, do you stop taking the hormone so you can keep that competitive edge? And if so, how often are these transgender athletes being tested to make sure that they are continuously taking the hormone treatments while they're training and while they are competing? The whole thing is just so unfair. Now, the last case I'm going to look at to drive my opinion home is Andrea Yearwood. Now, Andrea is a transgender male to female that began competing in women's track in high school. In 2017, she won first place in the 100 and 200 meter dash. Now, in 2021, Andrea Yearwood, along with another transgender teammate, they were both named in a Connecticut lawsuit citing the unfair inclusion of transgenders, male to female, participating in female sports. Now, what I find really interesting about this scenario was that Connecticut, along with 17 other states, including the District of Columbia, they only require high school athletes to identify as female, and then they're allowed to play. Did you hear me? They only have to identify as female, and then they are allowed to play. Say it ain't so. So let's just gather the facts here. When it comes to high school transgenders, you don't have to test their testosterone level. They don't have to show their strength and endurance. They just simply have to show up and say, hey, my name is Karen. I identify as a woman and I want to play. I am flabbergasted at this finding. It's sad because these young biological female athletes are simply being robbed of the opportunity to show their true talent amongst their own. Okay, I've been rambling on for at least 20 minutes or so regarding this transgender in sports topic. And I could go on for another 20, 30, 40 minutes straight. There's so much to say, so much that has been said, so much that needs to be said. But I'm going to step down from my soapbox just for a minute. And what I'm going to do is end this video here. And then I'm going to do a part 2 to the transgender in sports topic. And the part 2, I'm going to explore the other side. We're going to explore the female to male transgenders in sports. And we're going to get into that, and then also a little deeper into my opinion of the whole controversy as it stands. So I want to say goodbye for now, and I will see you in my next video, part 2. Now make sure to subscribe and make sure to check out part 2 of Transgenders in Sports.